Good day, Bermuda. I'm Jamila Lodge of the Bermuda Economic Development Corporation, and this is Mind Your Business, the show that brings you the latest information about starting and running a local business in Bermuda. Join us as we discuss the local business issues that are important to you. Today I have with me in the studio Glen Jones, who's the Director of Public and Stakeholder Relations of the Bermuda Tourism Authority. Welcome.
Thank you very much. Hi, Jamila. I'm glad to be here.
Glad that you are joining me today. So, what do you do for the BTA exactly?
Well, you mentioned the title, Director of Public and Stakeholder Relations. So I simplify that by saying to people, I explain stuff.
Okay.
It's sort of my job to explain to either the public through the media or through our stakeholders, talking to them about what the tourism strategy is. Because ultimately, we think that when our stakeholders are aligned with the overall strategy, they're in a better position for success. And a large part of what we do is really empowering entrepreneurs, which I know is something very important to your audience. So we want to make sure that they understand what the opportunities are so that they can align their ideas with that opportunity and hopefully become part of the tourism economy.
Okay, that's excellent. So specifically, you are the spokesperson for the Bermuda Tourism Authority.
Yeah, that's one way to look at it.
Okay.
And I think, broadly speaking, I represent the corporate communications of the company. Okay. So, of course, we also have consumer communications. We market to visitors so that they come to Bermuda. That's not really the area that I work in. Okay. I work in the area that's talking to the corporate side of the business.
Okay, so our stakeholders.
That's correct.
Specifically. Excellent. So you're the perfect person to have in this seat. So, you know, international business has been one of the key pillars of Bermuda's economy. And now tourism has also come back to light in terms of what we want to focus on. Why do you think that is? And how does the BTA help us to achieve the goal of bringing tourism back to the forefront?
Yeah, well, a diversified economy, I think, is in the best interest of all Bermudians. Right. I mean, and it really doesn't matter if you work in IB or tourism or some other sector. When you have a diversified economy, it just means the economy is more secure and it's safer. And we think having two main pillars is better than having one. So international business has served us well over the past 3-4 decades, and tourism has as well, but can be a bigger part of our GDP, can be a bigger part of our economy. And I think that's where we're going right now. The Bermuda Tourism Authority was formed in 2014. Okay. Its specific goal is to grow the tourism economy. So that means more visitors, that means more visitor spending, and it also means bringing more entrepreneurs into the tourism sector so that they can provide the experiences that visitors want to spend money on. I think if we do that successfully, it means there are going to be more jobs in tourism, and our kids will start thinking about tourism again as a career. Not only working in hotels as an example, but maybe even owning their own business in the tourism economy.
And that's where we want to focus, right? With BDC, our focus is on entrepreneurship. So since it's been formed, how do you think the BTA has done in terms of doing all of those things that you just said?
Right, I think we're off to a decent start. Okay. So it's in our 4th year now, basically. Visitor arrivals are certainly up. I think more impressively, visitor spending is up. So that means there is more foreign investment coming into our economy through tourism, and that's extremely, extremely important. And we spend a lot of time trying to get tourism entrepreneurs going, and I think that's been one of our real strengths. Working with you guys at BEDC on Entrepreneurship Week, we look for specifically tourism ideas during that part of the year. We have the Tourism Experiences Investment Process, where we ask people to submit their applications to align their idea with the tourism industry and the strategy. And if they do, we provide investment funds that help them get started. The person in our office, Pat Phillip Farron, who runs that, she says, listen, we're not looking to be your benefactor, we want to be your partner. So how do we partner in this to provide the kind of experiences that we don't have, but our visitors say they want? And we think that puts entrepreneurs in a good starting point to be successful.
Okay, now that's a good point. So when you talk about experiences, because people come to us all the time, they have a variety of different ideas that they want to focus on and they want to start. But I'm sure you at the BTA are probably more selective with regard to which ones you're going to partner with, right?
Absolutely.
What are some of the key areas that you would like to see people bring you ideas for?
Well, what we do is we're guided by research and business intelligence on what we think the best ideas are.
Right.
So we have our target group of consumers that we go out and we market to. So let's take young families as an example. That's a sector that in 2018, we really want to try to win in the tourism space. So what we'll start doing is we'll start marketing to young families specifically. And then when they start to show up in Bermuda, we want to have experiences that young families specifically enjoy.
Right.
So when we do the tourism experiences investment process, we might actually say, if your idea caters to young families, show us how, because that's the idea that we're looking to fund. Now, that is an example, young families, but there are many other examples like that where there's a specific consumer audience that we want to reach, and we want to make sure that the kind of experience they're looking for is here so that they spend the money. If we don't have that kind of equation, it means those visitors might show up, but actually don't find the experiences they're looking for, don't spend the money, and then don't have a good positive review of Bermuda when they're gone. So having that complete journey through the consumer process is really, really important.
Yeah, I would agree 110%. And it also helps us too, because if you have a specific idea about what types of businesses you want, then when they come to us for support, maybe filling out the application, putting together their business plan, we have sort of a guideline by which we can assist them. So with regard to this partnering, right, with entrepreneurs, et cetera, what does that look like? So there is obviously an application process.
There is.
How many times within a year can people apply, and what typically is the process for doing that?
Late summer to early fall is usually when the application process begins. We hold a series of public workshops, which give people a hand in shaping their idea to fit the strategy. So the consumer research we do as an example, we'll share it in that workshop. And then the applicant can decide, all right, that's the audience that I think is best suited for my product or my experience. I know when I submit my application, that's the target audience that I want to go for. And for those people who need help with a business plan, we send them to BEDC, and then they get that kind of assistance. And if they have the consumer research with them when they come to you guys, you can help them write a better business plan, obviously.
Definitely.
So then after that, our process will be to help them market that experience. So if a new experience is starting up, part of our responsibility is making sure that consumers know that that experience exists when they come to Bermuda. So making that connection as well.
That's excellent. Can you speak to any successes that you've worked with? Or?
Oh, yeah. I feel like there have been so many.
That's good.
Yeah, no, it's been good because in our area, remember, it is sometimes an event. It's an experience. It can sort of be a product in a way. Let me think. I know the Bermuda Triple Challenge is one that I like to cite a lot. It is a very niche audience of sort of adventure seekers or mud runners, I think is what they call them. These are people who go around the world doing these kind of adventurous fitness challenges, and Bermuda has such great assets in that area. So we've been able to help the Triple Challenge really plug into that audience around the world and grow their visitor numbers so that it's a bigger visitor event. Hidden Gems is an experience where people go on a tour to the places that people in Bermuda might frequent all the time, but it's off the beaten track for visitors. So that is one that we like a lot as well. Kinzumi Adventures is another one. Adventure Seekers was something that we were really going at very hard in the early years. I mean, it's still a part of the mix, but we're actually looking at other areas like, I think active families is the term we use for those young families who have kids that are, teenagers or younger. They travel as a family. What kind of things can they do together? And I think going forward, that's going to be one area that we're really looking to beef up on for experiences.
Okay. So that's one product. What are some of the other products that you have?
Well, we also have the Tourism Investment Act, which is actually a new method to get entrepreneurs empowered. And in some ways, it is a step beyond the startups, because if you already have a tourism business and you might be looking to enhance it or improve it, that's one vehicle that could be very helpful to you. And what happens in that regard is the government is providing incentives, whether they be taxes or other regulatory relaxation, so that you can get going and enhance your business.
Okay. So that's relatively new, right? Is it your hope do you think that there is a natural succession that will take place? So for those businesses that you partner with early on, right? Do you envision that those businesses will also be taking advantage of the Tourism Investment Act?
I understand the question you're asking, but I think there's a nuance to it. So for those experiences that we were talking about that were getting started up, I think we'd like to see them grow and ultimately be self-sustaining, where they don't actually need the assistance anymore. On the tourism investment side, that is more about infrastructure, sort of product versus experience, if you like. So restaurants, hotels, attractions, and I know Andy's going to talk to you a lot more about this. And because we're beefing up the experience and these new hotel products are coming online, we really need to think about the rest of our product, because if that is not enhanced simultaneously or around the same time, you're going to find people leaving their hotels and the experience isn't up to snuff with everything else. So that's why it was really important to do this now.
So it sounds like you're taking a very holistic approach.
Yeah, and I think it's really important to do that, but I have to also tell you it's exhausting. So, we don't
You don't look tired, Glenn. You don't look tired.
We don't, for many destination marketing organizations, the things that we're talking about already exist, and they're managed by other departments or agencies. And we have found that we really need to fill a lot of those gaps. So we're doing it as much as we can, and I think we're making a lot of strides, but ultimately we hope that the lift that we do now is actually spread out across more departments and agencies going forward, because that's really how you keep a powerful tourism engine going.
Yeah, I would agree with you 110%. So I'm going to have to wrap up, but before we do that, what would you say to someone who may be considering tourism as a potential way that they can start a business or something like that? What would you say to encourage them to maybe take advantage of the products that you have on offer?
I think it's such an exciting time to do it for several reasons. One, tourism is resurging again. I don't think there's anybody who can argue the opposite of that statement. It certainly is. There's more visitors coming to Bermuda. There's a greater buzz about brand Bermuda, and people are spending more when they come here. The other thing that's really good is I think one of the best things our organization does is on market research. And as you know, that's so critical to getting a positive start to your business. All of that information is open to our partners. So you don't have to spend the money it takes to gather that research. We already have it, and we're going to be sharing it with partners. I think those two reasons make it, maybe the best opportunity in a generation to join tourism.
Well, we just need to take advantage of it, right?
Absolutely.
You heard that, right, people?
Just,
Come see Glenn.
Raise your hand, say you want the help, and we'll provide it.
That's awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming and sharing this information with us. Hopefully, from this, you're going to get an influx of interest. I know you said you're tired.
Yeah, but nothing gives us more energy than seeing people turn up and actually join the tourism economy. So we're ready for that.
Excellent. Well, thanks again, Glenn. I really appreciate it. All right, you've been with me, Jamila, with Mind Your Business. We're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back.
This is a message from the government of Bermuda.
Employment applications for the Summer Day Camp program at the Bermuda Government Department of Youth, Sport, and Recreation are now being accepted. If you are highly motivated and have what it takes to work well with young people, then get an application form at www.gov.bm or call 294-2273 or visit the third floor of Craig Appen House on Wesley Street in Hamilton.
Welcome back to Mind Your Business. I'm your host, Jamila Lodge, and joining me now in the studio is Andy Burrows, the Chief Investment Officer for the BTA. Welcome, Andy.
Welcome. Thank you.
Thank you. Now, Glenn queued you up, so.
He did a great job, actually.
He did.
We're very happy to have him because he represents us collectively extremely well.
Yes. So I'm very happy to have you here because we're talking about the Tourism Investment Act. Right? Before we get started, though, what exactly do you do for the BTA?
Well, I'm responsible for promoting Bermuda internationally and amongst the local population as an investment destination, right? So we've had over 30 years of really no investment in hospitality. And when we talk about it in hospitality, I'm talking about, as Glenn indicated the infrastructure side of it, right?
Okay.
New hotels, refurbished hotels, principally in the past. So if you look at the last build, new build, it was probably the Fairmont Southampton.
Oh, wow.
In 1972.
Right.
And probably the last refurbishment, a large refurbishment was Tucker's Point.
Okay.
And then recently we had the Lauren. So in terms of where we are today, the authority has created demand. So we've looked again at marketing and sales and created new products and experience. And by creating that demand, that interest, people are now saying, I want to do something in Bermuda, right? I want to invest in Bermuda.
Right.
We see the growth, we see the opportunities. So when I go internationally now to market Bermuda as an investment destination, people are saying, I see what you're doing.
Right.
I believe in what you're doing.
Right.
How do we get involved?
Okay. So was this act created to sort of incentivize people coming to Bermuda?
Yeah, I mean, the act essentially was to replace the old Hotel Concessions Act.
Okay.
That act actually created in 2000 was a good start, but it wasn't effective enough and aligned enough with what the market thought was the requirements to be successful, right?
Okay.
So the new act is actually to stimulate investment activities, to create jobs, to make the incentives available to the Bermudians.
Okay.
The previous act, the Hotel Concession Act, was essentially for international investors.
Oh.
So we actually want the new act to have a focus on Bermudians investing in their own property as well.
That makes sense.
You're right. And then the other thing is we actually wanted to standardize what the incentives are, right? So you know what you're getting.
Right.
I think the previous act, one can surmise that it probably had a lot of discretion on behalf of the government.
Okay.
How you fit in a box or not.
Right.
We wanted to take that away. And then we wanted to standardize the legislative process for tourism products, right? So you know what you have to provide, and if you meet all the criteria, then it kind of gets done.
Okay.
And then we ultimately, hopefully the new act makes Bermuda competitive internationally in hospitality.
So talking specifically about what you wanted to standardize and take away, the subjectiveness, if you would, can you speak a little bit about what you're talking about? So what different areas you want to focus on or you would like people to be able to take advantage of?
Yeah, I mean, so we're saying that there are three main things in the act that we are asking people to consider investing in. One is hotels, obviously.
Right.
But we've split hotels away into two different types. So we want a new hotel and an existing hotel that is looking to be refurbished, right? And then we're looking at restaurants. Again, new restaurants and existing restaurants that want to be refurbished and upgraded.
Okay.
And then the other bit is attractions. And then the big question that comes: what is an attraction?
What is that?
Well, the act is very clear. So it's a site, an existing business that actually has an operating a mandate, a management setup, all this sorts of stuff that makes it look like a business. That the gray areas is where people come in and say, well, what does that actually mean?
Yeah.
Right?
Like, give me an example, right?
So if you look at it, so we'll say a place like the aquarium.
Okay.
Right? The aquarium might want to upgrade itself. There might be a charity interested in supporting the aquarium.
Okay.
But they can now get some relief through government incentives to extend the value of that contribution to the aquarium.
Got you.
So that's kind of like the easiest example, but I think it sends the right message as to what we're talking about.
Right.
And we're hoping that those attractions and restaurants are invested into by the local community
Right.
to the point that as this demand gets keeps going, and we think it will keep going, as Glenn spoke of when he was here. As long as that continues to grow, we want the holistic infrastructure, tourism infrastructure product, to be at world class.
Right.
Right? So we have Morgan's Point and Caroline Bay coming on board. We have the Hamilton Princess that has an exciting, wonderful job over there. You have the Lauren that's just opened. You have Resort that's being built now. We have St. Regis that's coming. When all of those, you have the airport being built. So when all of that infrastructure, which is going to be very new infrastructure, when all of that is in place, we want to make sure that the other infrastructure, the places that people go from an attraction perspective, the restaurants where they go to eat, we want to make sure that that infrastructure is equal to the quality that someone gets when they stay in one of those properties.
Okay. Now, of all of those hotels that you mentioned, did any of them take advantage of the Tourism Investment Act?
Most of those had the hotel concessions
Got you.
order.
Okay.
But we provide also a concierge service. And that concierge service means that we provide an aftercare to them so that they can navigate themselves. We can help them navigate through the government machinery.
Okay.
I think everybody knows that's not an easy thing to do, but we try to step in to help them get through that with the least amount of disruption.
Got you.
Right. One of the most important things for us to remember is capital moves where it's easiest to do business.
Yeah.
And most times in the region and anywhere, government can be a challenge to get through.
Right.
Who do you talk to? We want to have those relationships with the government, with the providers on the island, so that when someone comes in and says, "Andy, I want to invest in Bermuda," I say, "Look, fine, here's the people you should talk to, here's the package," and then we walk you through the system.
Okay. I'm sure that is a great help to people, right?
It is,
And it could speed up whatever it is they're trying to do.
Well, I mean, the comment I get when I'm away is, why aren't other countries doing this?
Right.
Why isn't there an investment concierge service either in governments in other countries or in an authority in other countries?
Well, Bermuda, we have to be,
So
the leaders.
We've always led.
That's right.
We've always led. We led in hospitality for a long time.
That's
We're trying to we are very close to recapturing some of that position. But I think being leaders is a natural thing we do. We lead in international business. Why not lead in tourism?
Why not? So, did the BTA develop this act, alone, or was it some sort of partnership between the BTA and the government?
Yeah.
And who makes sure that the act or people are adhering to the act and all of that?
So the Investment Act was a product of a summit that the government had in 2013.
Okay.
So the government at the time, led by a former premier candidate, called upon various industry experts who were familiar with Bermuda and familiar with our competitors to come to the island and say, "Tell us what we're doing wrong. Tell us how we need to change, and give us some ideas of what the market is looking for, the investment community is looking for, and what we have to do to be successful."
Right.
They asked three particular questions. Why is Bermuda not getting its fair share of investment in hospitality? What are other jurisdictions doing to attract hotel development that we're not doing? And what are the key strategies for increasing hotel investments, development and investments in Bermuda? Those questions led to the formation, in a large part, of the Tourism Investment Act.
Okay.
Right? So I was brought on in 2014 to say this, and I was told, let's figure this thing out. Yes, fix it.
Fix it.
Right? Which is fine. Let's fix it. And my background is as a banker to the sector for over 12 years.
Yeah.
On the private side, you really couldn't understand why it wasn't happening. Because you saw a lot of deals. You say, well, why isn't this closing? It looks good. Why isn't it closing? you couldn't get the numbers to work because the incentives being provided by other jurisdictions were better than us, right? So we reviewed 19 competitor countries, essentially the Caribbean, because whilst we are not in the Caribbean, we're an island nation, so we have all the issues that an island nation will have. And we also consulted with local and international stakeholders. With all that research and that feedback from the people who are doing this thing on a regular basis, we crafted the Tourism Investment Act.
Okay. Well, I'm hopeful that as people watch this, they will say, how can I take advantage of that? So if someone is interested in taking advantage of refurbishing or building a new hotel or building a new restaurant or refurbishing a restaurant or creating a new attraction or an existing attraction, building it up, how and who should they contact at the BTA?
Well, it's me.
Okay. You're the guy. All right.
So we've created an email address called tourism investment at bermudatourism.com.
Okay. Tourism investment at bermudatourism.com. Okay.
Right. So on our website is the act.
Right.
And also what we call the regulations. In the regulations, it tells you what you need to provide.
Gotcha.
Right? So I need to remind people that this is the government's participation in the growth of tourism on the infrastructure side. So we are providing Bermudians the same value proposition we have given international investors over the last however many years.
Good.
So in that instance, the minister at the end of the process, when we've agreed that we want to go ahead with it, he will stand in the House of Assembly and make the case to his colleagues, to fellow MPs, who will then vote whether they
do it or not.
Do it or not. So it is not like the products, experiences, investment where we have the final say as to who gets money. This is actually the government deciding that this is in the national interest for the country, and taxpayers' dollars will be available to support an investment. So there's a business plan, there's other documentations you need, so all of that needs to happen for us to make sense, for the people to make sense, so that we don't fall afoul of our citizens.
Well, listen, I think if everybody's involved, it sounds like, which is a good thing. I mean, and that's what you want at the end of the day, right? Because ultimately, this whole thing is to reinvigorate Bermuda's economy, and at the end of the day, we're all better for it. Right. So thank you very much for coming on today, telling us a little about the Tourism Investment Act, and hopefully you're going to be getting many, many calls to take advantage of.
I mean, it's all about job creation. It's all about growth in the economy.
Here, here.
It's all about stimulation.
Yeah, excellent. Okay. Thanks a lot, Andy.
Thank you. Great.
Thank you for joining us today on Mind Your Business. If you have questions, contact the BEDC at 292-5570 or email us at info@bedc.bm. And remember, if you don't mind your business, who will? I'm Jamila Lodge, and thanks for joining us.